Hey, I'm Ryan. I started learning English from zero. It was tough. I made mistakes, but I never gave up. Have you ever felt stuck, afraid to speak, or like your dreams are out of reach? Have you ever watched someone speak English so effortlessly and thought, I could never do that? Or maybe you've frozen in a moment when you needed to speak, your heart racing, your mind blank, feeling like you don't belong? If any of this sounds familiar, then this video is for you. Welcome to our channel, where we don't just teach English, we help you grow stronger, think deeper, and become unstoppable in life. My name is Ryan, and today, I'm sharing my story, a story of how learning English transformed my life. It's not just about words or grammar. It's about confidence, opportunities, and building a life you're proud of. This video will inspire you, improve your English, and show you that no matter where you start, you can change your life one word at a time. So, stay with me until the end, because this story might just spark something powerful in you. English is not just a language. It's a doorway to jobs, friendships, dreams, and a version of yourself you never thought possible. But for me, that doorway was locked for years. I couldn't speak English, not a sentence, not a phrase, not even my own name without stumbling. I was laughed at, rejected, and underestimated. I felt like an outsider in a world that spoke a language I didn't understand. But through resilience, discipline, and a promise I made to myself, I went from zero to fluency, from a small, cold apartment to a life of purpose and pride. This is my journey, and it's not about being special. It's about being determined. It's about failing, learning, and never giving up. Let's start at the beginning, at the lowest point of my life, because sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to find the strength to rise. It was Wednesday, March 7th, 2018, a freezing morning in Newark, New Jersey. I lived in a tiny apartment on the second floor of a crumbling building in West Side. The walls were thin, the heat barely worked, and the air smelled of damp concrete and fried onions from the neighbor's kitchen. My room was sparse, a sagging mattress on a metal frame, a wobbly wooden chair, and a cracked mirror taped to the wall. I had $62.47 in my bank account. Rent was due in 9 days, and I hadn't worked in 4 months. That morning, I woke up at 4:15 a.m., not because I wanted to, but because my nerves wouldn't let me sleep. I had an interview at 8:30 a.m. with Horizon Tech Support, a call center that handled customer complaints for a retail chain. The job paid $13.75 an hour. Nothing fancy, but to me, it was a lifeline. I'd applied to dozens of jobs before, but every rejection came back to one thing: my English. I could barely introduce myself. My resume was thin, my confidence thinner. I'd spent days preparing for this interview, watching YouTube videos titled, How to Ace an Interview, and scribbling phrases I didn't fully understand. I'm a team player. I'm passionate about customer service. I practiced in front of my mirror, but my voice shook, and the words felt foreign, like they belonged to someone else. That morning, I showered in cold water because the hot water had been off for a week. I wore a gray button-up shirt I'd bought for $7 at a thrift store. It was slightly too big, but I tucked it into my only pair of black pants, which had a small tear at the knee I hoped no one would notice. My shoes were scuffed, but I polished them with a damp cloth until they looked passable. I looked in a mirror, adjusted my collar, and whispered, "You can do this. Just smile. Just speak." But my hands were trembling, and my stomach churned with dread. I left at 6:45 a.m., walking 40 minutes to the office because I couldn't afford the bus fare. The streets were quiet, the air biting my cheeks. I rehearsed my introduction. Good morning. My name is Ryan. I'm excited to be here. But halfway there, I forgot the lines. I stopped under a street lamp, my breath visible in the cold, and tried to recall them. Nothing. A woman pushing a stroller glanced at me, and I forced a smile, pretending I wasn't falling apart. By the time I reached Horizon Tech Support, a squat brick building with tinted windows, it was 7:50 a.m., too early, but I didn't care. I sat in the lobby, clutching a crumpled resume, surrounded by candidates in crisp suits and polished shoes. They chatted confidently, their English flowing like water. I felt like a child among giants. At 8:30, a man with a clipboard called my name. I stood, my legs shaky, and followed him to a small office with fluorescent lights and a fake plant in the corner. Two interviewers sat across a metal table, a woman with sharp eyes and a man with a gray beard. The woman said, "Ryan, tell us about yourself." My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I tried again. Ryan. I work hard. Good job. My face burned. The words were wrong, jumbled, broken. The man raised an eyebrow. Can you describe your experience with customer service? I froze. My mind was a blank page. I stammered, yes. I could phone. I learned fast. I knew I was failing. Their faces were polite but distant, like they'd already made up their minds. The interview lasted 5 minutes. The woman smiled tightly and said, "Thank you, Ryan. We'll be in touch." I nodded, mumbled something, and walked out. I took the stairs, not the elevator, my footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. Outside, the cold hit me like a slap, but I didn't care. I walked for hours, past coffee shops where people laughed in English, past billboards I couldn't read, past a life I couldn't touch. I ended up at a small park, sitting on a bench, staring at bare trees. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat, replaying my broken senses, their pitying looks, my shame. I'd failed 5 interviews before, but this one broke me. I thought, is this my life? Will I always be silent, invisible, stuck? That night, I returned to my apartment, still wearing my ill-fitting shirt. I didn't eat. I didn't turn on the light. I lay on my mattress, staring at the ceiling, the street light casting shadows through my window. My phone sat silent. No messages, no data, no hope. I felt like I had nothing. No job, no skills, no voice. Just a cracked mirror, a thrift store shirt, and a dream that felt impossible. And then, in the darkness, a thought pierced through, sharp and clear. No one is coming to save you. I sat up, my heart pounding. I looked at the mirror, barely visible in the dim light, and said, "If you don't learn English, you'll die this way. Not your body, but your dreams." That was the moment everything changed. At 2:17 a.m. on March 8th, 2018, I made a promise. I didn't care how long it would take, how many mistakes I'd make, or how many times I'd fail. I was going to learn English, not just to survive, but to thrive, not to mumble, but to speak with power, not to hide, but to stand tall. I grabbed a notebook from under my bed, its pages yellowed and curling, and wrote the top, "I speak English fluently. I just don't know it yet." That sentence wasn't perfect, but it was mine. It was a spark, a beginning, a vow. I didn't have money for classes or apps. I didn't have a teacher or a mentor, but I had hunger, a burning, unshakable desire to change my life. I created a system, not based on fancy tools or shortcuts, but on discipline, courage, and real actions. It wasn't easy. There were days I wanted to quit, nights I cried from frustration, moments I felt like a fool. But I kept going, brick by brick, word by word, mistake by mistake. Here's how I did it, step by step, day by day, and how you can too. The next morning, I stood in front of my cracked mirror and spoke. Hello, my name is Ryan. I'm learning English. My voice was shaky, my accent thick, but I said it 10 times. It felt awkward, like wearing someone else's clothes, but I did it again the next day, and the next. I wasn't just practicing words. I was building a new version of myself. That was the start of a journey that would take me from a silent, scared boy to a confident, fluent speaker. But the road was long, and the struggles were real. Every time I tried to speak English, my throat tightened. I'd hear native speakers, fast, fluid, effortless, and feel like I'd never belong. At a grocery store, the cashier once asked, "Paper or plastic?" I panicked, mumbled yes, and walked away with nothing. I avoided phone calls, ignored texts, and declined invitations, all because I was terrified of being exposed as that guy who can't speak. The fear wasn't just about words. It was about being seen as less, as unworthy. With no job and $62.47 to my name, survival was a daily battle. I ate rice and canned beans, skipped meals to save money, and walked everywhere to avoid bus fares. The pressure of rent loomed like a storm cloud. I couldn't afford English classes or even a stable internet connection to watch free videos. Every rejection felt like proof I'd never escape poverty. Living in Newark, I was surrounded by English, on signs and conversations on TV, but it felt like a foreign country. I'd walk past groups laughing in cafes, their words a blur, and feel invisible. At job fairs, I'd see confident candidates networking while I stood in the corner, silent. I wanted to belong, to contribute, to be heard, but my lack of English kept me on the outside, looking in. Despite these struggles, I refused to stay broken. I built a system, a real fluency system, that turned my apartment into a classroom, my mirror into a teacher, and my fear into fuel. Here are the 10 practical strategies that carried me from zero to fluency. Strategy 1. Speak to the mirror daily. I started with my mouth, not my ears. Every morning and night, I stood in front of my cracked mirror and spoke. My name is Ryan. I'm from Newark. I'm learning English. At first, it felt silly, like talking to a wall. But it trained my tongue to form sounds, my mind to think in English. I'd practice simple sentences. Today, I will study hard. I'm not afraid. Each repetition built confidence. One day I practiced, "I want a coffee, please." The next week, I said it at a cafe without stuttering. Speak to your mirror 5 minutes a day. It's your safe space to fail, learn, and grow. Strategy 2. Create a survival English wall. I turned my apartment into an English classroom. I taped papers on my walls with phrases I needed to survive. One said, "Ordering food. Can I have a sandwich, please? No tomatoes." Another, "Job interview. I'm a quick learner. I work well in a team." I added a new paper every few days, covering my walls with English. Before my next interview, I memorized, "Thank you for this opportunity." It felt natural when I said it. Write phrases you need daily, ordering, greeting, asking questions, and stick them where you'll see them. Your home, is your teacher. Strategy 3. The 111 method. This was my secret weapon. 1 hour, one topic, one result, every day. I'd pick a topic like introducing myself and spend 1 hour studying it. I'd watch YouTube videos, write 5 sentences, practice them in the mirror, and record myself. By the end, I had a result. I could introduce myself better than yesterday. Day 1, I learned. I'm excited to work here. Day 2, can you tell me the directions? Each day, build a new skill. Focus on one topic daily for 1 hour. Small wins add up to fluency. Strategy 4. Build an English identity. I decided Ryan speaks English. I wrote everything in English, to-do lists, dreams, journal entries. Today, I feel tired, but I will keep going. My grammar was bad, but I didn't care. I changed my phone to English, labeled my kitchen, spoon, fridge, salt, and thought in English. I need to buy milk. Writing, my dream is to speak on a stage. Made it feel real. Years later, I did. Live English daily. Write, think, label your world. Make it your language. Strategy 5. Record your voice. I recorded myself speaking every night. I'd say, today I learned how to order food and talk for 3 minutes. At first, I hated my voice thick, clumsy, wrong, but I kept going. By day 10, I heard progress. Listening to my first recording after a month, I noticed I said hello clearly instead of hello. Record yourself daily. It's painful but powerful. Your voice is your progress. Strategy 6. Stop apologizing for mistakes. I used to say, sorry, my English is bad. It made me feel small. One day I told my mirror, stop apologizing. You're learning. That's courage. From then on, I spoke slowly, smiled, and owned my words. At a store, I said, I want this shirt, instead of apologizing. The cashier smiled back. Mistakes are not shame. Silence from fear is. Speak boldly, and people will respect your effort. Strategy 7. Describe your actions. I narrated my life in English. Cooking. I'm boiling water. I'm adding rice. Brushing my teeth. I'm using toothpaste. The water is cold. It made English real, not just a study subject. Saying, I'm walking to the store. Help me order there. Can I have bread? Describe what you do in English. It builds fluency naturally, like a child learning. Strategy 8. Practice real-life scenarios. I acted out situations in my room. Ordering food. Hi, I'd like a burger, no onions. Job interviews. I'm reliable and eager to learn. Small talk. Nice weather today, isn't it? I'd stand in front of my mirror, playing both sides of the conversation. Practicing. Can you repeat that? Help me handle a fast-talking customer later. Role play daily scenarios. It prepares you for real life. Strategy 9. Learn 5 words a day. I carried a notebook and learned 5 words daily, writing their meaning, an example sentence, and my own sentence. Word, confident. Meaning, believing in yourself. Example, she spoke with confidence. My sentence, I am confident when I practice English. Learning apologize helped me say, I apologize for the delay at work. 5 words a day, used in sentences, build a vocabulary you own. Strategy 10. Teach what you learn. I share my progress with others. I teach a friend how to say, thank you for your help, or explain hello to my sister. Teaching forced me to understand better. Teaching my neighbor, can I have water, made me confident using it myself. Teach one person a word or phrase daily. It cements your learning and inspires others. On April 20th, 2018, 44 days after my failed interview, I applied to Nexus Customer Care, another call center. I walked in, my heart pounding, but I used my survival English wall phrases. I'm a quick learner. I'm excited to work here. I spoke slowly, smiled, and didn't apologize. They hired me at $14.50 an hour. Standing outside the office, I looked at the sky, tears in my eyes. Not just for the job, but for keeping my promise. My first day was terrifying. At 10:13 a.m., my first call came. Hello, this is Ryan. How may I help you? My voice shook. The customer, a man from Chicago, was upset about a delivery. I barely understood him. I said, "Can you repeat, please?" He did, slower. I solved his issue after 12 minutes, my hands trembling. When the call ended, I exhaled like I'd run a marathon. I didn't quit. I faced it. That was victory. For weeks, I made mistakes, saying he instead of she, mispronouncing schedule as schedule. My coworkers laughed, but kindly. One, Maria, said, "Ryan, your English is getting better. Keep going." I stayed late, practiced after work, and greeted everyone with, "Good morning. How are you?" My attitude made me a team favorite, even with broken English. 3 months in, my supervisor, Karen, gave me a tough call, a furious client. I stayed calm. "Sir, I understand. Let's fix this together." After 15 minutes, he said, "Thanks, Ryan. You're good at this." My team clapped. I wasn't perfect, but I was reliable. That night, I told my mirror, "You did it. You're enough." 6 months later, Karen said, "Ryan, can you train new hires?" Me, the guy who once froze in interviews. I prepared a session on customer phrases, using my 111 method. I stood before 15 trainees, nervous but ready. "Hello, I'm Ryan. Today, you'll learn to handle calls with confidence." I wasn't flawless, but they listened. One trainee said, "You make it feel possible." I cried that night, not from shame, but pride. A year later, I was invited to speak at Speak Up Newark, an event for language learners. I faced 500 people, my hands sweaty, my white shirt crisp. I said, 2 years ago, I couldn't say my name. Today, I'm here because I didn't give up. You can too. The crowd cheered. A girl hugged me after, saying, "You told my story." That moment wasn't just about English. It was about becoming a leader. By 2020, I was promoted to training manager, earning $4,800 a month. I moved to a bright apartment with wooden floors, a balcony with plants, and a bookshelf of English novels. I bought my parents a new fridge, paid for my brother's school, and saved for a dream, a BMW X5. On my 31st birthday, I drove it home, tears streaming. It wasn't about the car. It was about the boy who once had $62.47, now living a life he built. At a training workshop, I met Lila, a teacher with a warm smile. She said, "Ryan, your story inspires me." We talked about fears, dreams, and favorite books. Months later, she said, "I'm proud of you." And I knew I'd found not just love, but a partner who saw my journey. English didn't just give me words. It gave me connection. 10 life-changing lessons. 1. English is not hard. It's unfamiliar. Like a new city, English feels strange at first. Live it daily, speak, think, write, and it becomes home. I felt lost in Newark, but I made English my city. You can too. 2. Fluency is confidence, not speed. Slow down. Pause. Speak with heart. My first call was shaky, but clear. Clarity wins over speed every time. 3. Practice makes progress, not perfection. Perfection trapped me in fear. Progress freed me. Every sentence I spoke was a step forward. Celebrate your steps. 4. Learn like a child. Children don't study grammar. They listen, repeat, speak. I mimic YouTube videos, not textbooks. Start simple and grow. 5. Your mirror is your teacher. 5 minutes daily in front of a mirror built my confidence. I am Ryan. I am enough. Try it and watch your voice grow. 6. Describe your world. Saying, I'm cooking rice, made English real. Narrate your day, and fluency will follow naturally. 7. Own 5 words daily. 5 words, 3 sentences each, built my vocabulary. Resilience. I am resilient. Small steps create big change. 8. Mistakes are bricks, not walls. Every mistake I made, saying recipe for receipt, was a brick in my fluency house. Build, don't stop. 9. Teach to learn. Teaching my brother, hello, made me better. Share one phrase daily. It strengthens you and lifts others. 10. You are enough. I once hated my voice, but I learned it's mine and it's powerful. Your voice, your effort, your journey. You are enough. Conclusion. My journey started with a cracked mirror, a failed interview, and $62.47. It wasn't easy. I stumbled, doubted, cried, but I never gave up. English wasn't just a language. It was my doorway to confidence, freedom, and a life I love. Today, I'm not just a speaker. I'm a son who made his parents proud, a brother who inspires, a partner who loves, a leader who lifts others. And it all began with one promise. I will learn English. You may feel stuck, scared, or too late. But hear this. You are not your failures. You are not your fears. You are enough. English is not a mountain. It's a path. And every step, every word, every mistake brings you closer to your dreams. Stand up. Go to your mirror. Say, I can. I will. I must. I am learning English, and I will never stop. Start today, not tomorrow, not next week now. Because fluency is not born. It's built brick by brick, word by word, mistake by mistake. If this story lit a fire in you, if it made you believe in your own power, please subscribe to our channel. We don't just teach English. We help you become confident, unstoppable, and free. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and comment below. What's one English phrase you'll practice today? Your support fuels our mission to change lives, one word at a time. See you in the next video. Until then, speak, fail, learn, repeat. Your voice is your power. You are enough.